Hello and welcome to the Galaxy's Edge podcast. My name is Walt, and I have wrangled two amazing creators to come and talk about Galaxy's Edge. On my left, yeah, I can range. I have Jason Ison on Spock. How are you, sir?
Right. I'm doing all right. So you got Nick. Who's the other creator that's amazing? Are we waiting or?
What's that? No, he's we're
the-
live.
We're live. I thought you said two amazing creators, and I only see Nick. So I'm not sure where this extra guy is coming from.
And then, of course, behind the steering wheel and always behind the amazing, we have Mr. Nick Cole. How are you, sir?
Are we on?
Yes, we're on.
Let's see if I'm unmuted. Scroll down.
Caller, you are on the air.
I assume this is why he has an RTO.
I can't hear you.
Not at all, huh? I think we broke Nick.
It's too bad. I think he's going too fast down.
It could be.
Highway. Like sound is not catching up to him.
So today we are sitting in and around Galaxy's Edge, talking about all things Galactic Outlaws.
Maybe
For those who aren't familiar or who are just joining, he'll be back in a moment.
Yeah.
For those who are just joining the fan club or just getting into Galaxy's Edge, can you give the 30-second elevator pitch for blasters and robots and all things good?
Yeah, Galaxy's Edge is a little bit of Star Wars meets G.I. Joe meets Special Forces. Legionnaire is stormtroopers in Afghanistan. If you've never heard about it, there he is.
There he is.
But it's a good old time. It's a lot of people that like a lot of cool stuff, like things that go pew and freedom. We like freedom.
Hell yeah.
We like America.
Love freedom.
We love Rangers. We love Rangers. We love Marines too, but we feel like Rangers maybe don't quite get their due in fiction. So we're trying to change that a little bit.
Right on.
Yep.
I know they appreciate it.
Lead the way.
Mm-hmm.
We like fun. That's a big thing. We like fun.
Right.
We like writing things that are just fun. There's no agenda. There's no bleh. We're just having fun. It's probably a little on the violent side, but violence is fun.
Yeah, right. Yeah, we like fun, and we hate people that tell you how you should be having fun.
Right on.
Right, that combination.
We don't like that.
So in keeping
we don't like
with
that cousin. We don't like that cousin, like when you went over and you wanted to play with their action figures, and they're like, well, let's just leave them in the package. We want to light the action figures on fire, and we want to then play with them. So,
hell yeah.
That sounds like my cousin. Like, come over. Like, hey, let me come over and break your toys.
I have fireworks. This is going to be epic. I got John Spears on the Galaxy's Edge fan club. We sort of know him, and he wants to know how you guys just stay so sexy.
Takes a lot of
I'll
oil
let
of Olay.
Yeah,
a lot of oil of Olay.
Oh God.
Like cucumber masks, things like that. It takes work. That's actually what we do more than right, is just go from salon to salon. So Nick, I think, is coming back from right now.
He's coming back from the salon.
I do all the manicures, all the pedicures. I get facials, the good kind, not the obscene Thai humpy hump bar kind. But then I also, I spend excessive amounts of time in the sun. I work out for about 2 to 3 hours every day. I eat whatever I want and a lot of donuts. But I think sexy is just owning you and not trying to be a metrosexual panty waist kind of guy. Just, be a regular dude, shoot some guns, eat some donuts, dig hot chicks, go to the occasional monster truck rally. These things are good for you.
Oh my God, I got to put this into a list. It's going to be amazing. Coming out of Twitter, I have one of my friends, Doug. He wants to know what kind of research you guys did because to get that military feel.
Well, Well, Nick was in the military. I grew up in a military family and have plenty of friends who have served. So it didn't take a lot of research. But if you're asking like from a starting point of zero, there's a lot of memoirs. There's a lot of combat memoirs. There's a lot of books you can read by people who have done what the Legionnaires do in real life. And I kind of read that for fun anyway. So it wasn't too difficult, but I don't know that Nick and I sat down and did a lot of research per se. I think it just sort of came naturally because of our environments.
And military experience is not that I've found very helpful because my experience is so outdated. Like when you're trying to write modern sort of, all the holographic red site, ninja shit everybody does now, and your experience is a martini rifle, a breech loader, which is basically what using an M16A3 is. It's there's things that are constant about the military forever, all militaries, but I think engaging with the readership, which has this huge depth of experience, and memes are really fun that make fun of the military because it reminds you of stuff, and then you're like, oh yeah, I forgot that. And I think nothing, like, it's really weird, but nothing gives honest military mindset than watching how the military doesn't take itself too seriously. I think when you tune in to sort of like shows that are trying to show you what the military is all about, and they take everyone's worst day from a collection of like 300 different experiences and turn it into one big long day, and then try to tell you that's what every day in the military is like. It's not. The military is a lot of things, and there's a lot of moments, but I think again, engaging with the readership has probably upped our military writing by 5,000%. And so, how do you do that? Like, you're just in the Galaxy's Edge fan club, the Galaxy's Edge group. Readers who have served write us a lot of letters and talk about their experiences. And then, like, sometimes we'll go in and honestly say, can we use that experience? Can we talk about that? And that's how one of the major characters had a big plot change in their life, was from someone's real world actual experience. So there's the levity, there's the seriousness, but I think when you become a writer, you step away from your own experiences after about 4 books. And now what you're doing is you become this vampire of other people's stories. So like there are things in books like Madame Guillotine or Requiem for Medusa that come from my conversations with a special forces operator in particular. There are things in Legionnaire that Jason can tell you that come directly from some experiences of his friends in Afghanistan, personal friends that I think he grew up with. But I won't tread on that. But like, it really does come from people. Long answer, not much on content, but that's what I do.
We got Christopher Bohr in the chat on Facebook saying, "Hey, I used to play D&D with those guys."
Yeah, I think those episodes are still up. OldSchoolDND.com.
Well, what I love now, like, we used to do this like fun, like when we were all kind of like fledgling, blushing indie writers in the indie movement. We thought, a great way to alternatively sell books would be for us to get together and play Dungeons and Dragons, and then like we had these grand plans about plugging our novels, and then like invariably you're like, we should write about this world and we should get into it. But I will say, like, in our defense, like, we were very prescient, and prescient is a big word for, like, we had strange knowledge of the future, and the future is like now, today. Chris Pratt and that new Spider-Man guy are like literally talking about forming a D&D group, having never played D&D. And it's become such a hot thing, but like literally we were ahead of the curve. And I look like Robert Downey Jr. I could totally, play Avengers D&D. But no, we used to do that. It was really fun. it's good to see you, Christopher Moore. I can't see you because I'm looking at the road, and I'd be dead, and that would make this the greatest podcast ever. I think it froze.
That might be kind of disastrous. I don't know that I would call the co-creator of Galaxy's Edge dying live in his own fan club.
Yeah, that would be a
Great.
little. Yeah, that'd be a little rough. We like you the vertical way.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah, but I could, like every rock band needs an early death to like plummet to greatness. So,
Oh no.
so I could be the John Bonham.
Oh.
Take the wheel.
No. Oh no.
This is bad.
Oh,
This is terrible.
the humanity.
The truth is, we're just sitting in our garage, and I'm just making all this up.
Oh my goodness. The another question coming in out of Twitter. Oh, we got Dan Kim on the chat saying, "No, don't do that." Another question coming in out of Twitter saying, "How do you keep the military vibe and not go into heaping amounts of profanity?"
Oh yeah. So we both have a couple of understandings. Like one, we all know all those bad words. We learn them. I think by fifth grade I had them all memorized pretty well. So we know those words, and we know the readers know those words, and those words end up being either substitute words or words to express anger, whatever it might be. You can express all those things if you're creative as a writer without actually having to use them. You can express everything that you think an F-bomb is expressing just by being creative as a writer, and not being hokey. And the advantage to that is there's a lot of people who I think were like me growing up, like Nick growing up, who absolutely adored people in service. I remember going to our local fair and going to the Marine booth, and like the Navy would give you a poster, the Air Force would give you a poster, the Army would give you a poster, the Marines would be like, give me 20 push-ups for this poster, right? So like that was my brother and I's room growing up. It was full of aircraft carriers and Marines and everything like that, and we adored it. We could have read Galaxy's Edge. We couldn't have read a book that said, hey, I need to spell out the profanity. And so I think Nick and I came from that kind of a heart to say there are young men and young women who need to see the good things about sacrifice, the good things about the camaraderie and the brotherhood. And the reality is that, 95 F-bombs on one page is not going to allow you to do that. And so for us, it's just a challenge. Can we make it feel authentic without going to those crutch words? And I think that we've done a good job doing that. And honestly, we don't get complaints from people. We don't get people who are saying, oh, I wish that the book would have said this. We actually will get people that swear that our books do have that. And the reality is it doesn't, but it feels like it does because, again, you can do it if you're thoughtful about how you deliver dialogue, if you're thoughtful about how you write.
Yeah, it's everything that Jason said is spot on. That was a conscious choice at the beginning because of how we approached it morally. And I think where it really comes home is you have guys who have served and they then want to kind of share with their kids what they did. But, if you have something and there's a string of 10 F-bombs in it, a good parent probably is not going to do that. It's not to say that it's not wrong. It's not to say you're not going to hell because you swear, or anything like that. But, we're trying to raise young ladies and young gentlemen. But for the military guys, I would just say every time you see a comma, just say fuck. And you're there, and there's already that background in every soldier's head constantly running there. And then I would say, okay, so we've all served and we've all been in the military, we've all been young, and we've all had that moment where we get to work in profanity like, Van Gogh. But I would say this, it's probably good to get rid of that as you adult and get into the corporate world. And, you have to, you suddenly find out like not everybody wants to, hear that. And especially if you're, working with different genders or whatever sexes, and, they may not want to have that or to hear those things. So it's kind of a good training ground to actually start, getting yourself used to it. What? So, but
Yeah, we're just dying because of the phone placement.
Yeah. Hey, it's me down there. And I'm surrounded by cops. They don't even know I'm breaking the law. But you know, that's just the way it is, and it's a really good choice, and I think it makes the series stronger. Now, I'll dive in real quick on a little bit of tech because there are writers in here, and this is a choice, and this is as age old as when people finally got to start using profanity, and everybody thinks that you have to do this and everything like that. And the point that Jason made is no one has ever come to us and said, I needed more vulgarity. But I do know of instances where people say, I love it, I love the writing, can't share this with my kids, can't share this with my grandma. So from a financial and economic standpoint, like, and that's why, you know, we're doing writing. It's fun, it's great. You kind of do want to quit your day job and make stuff up all day long. From a practical economic standpoint, it actually works in your favor not to get too blue and not to get blue at all. And, you know, we're writing something right now that we're leaving the world of Legionnaires where we can make up substitutes that are kind of funny, and we're actually dealing with real world Rangers. And you know, there's a way to overcome what we're doing, and I think when it's kind of revealed why we're doing it that way, it'll be kind of witty and fun. But you only grow as a writer if you find ways to overcome obstacles instead of just giving into it. And I can honestly tell you, by looking at people's work, the moment an F-bomb enters, you can actually watch the work go downhill because it does become a kind of crutch. Instead of coming up with witty dialogue, it's easy just to go fuck. Well, there's other ways to solve that problem. But if you just do that, well, that's all you've done. Long answer, short on content.
Right on. We have Daniel Kim in the chat on Facebook, and he's saying that he really appreciates being able to listen and play the books while his kids are around. So that's a huge thing. Daniel Caldwell has a question. He's one of the moderators from the Galaxy's Edge Discord, and he wants to know if his character can have their own personal stealth fighter that is capable of space and atmospheric flight when I get put into the books.
Man, but see, then everyone's going to ask for special tech, right?
But okay, hold on. It's not a bug; it's a feature. Daniel, I'm looking at the new Tesla, and it's really great. Let's work that out, and you get your stealth fighter.
It's just like driving on top.
I wouldn't buy that piece of crap. No, I'm just saying, like, hey, we're cool with bribery. You know, like Hickory Farm summer sausage gift pack, get you a stealth fighter. You know, I'd love a big beef stick, and that's not gay.
I can't wait to use that as my ringtone for my text messages. I'm just going to clip that part of the audio out. It's going to be amazing.
You can get some eyes. Get some eyes on you.
I was an actor in Hollywood. I'm comfortable with my sexuality and my fuckery.
Commenting on the once again the profanity. Lauren Moore says that's twargin right. Adulting like a pro here.
Yeah.
Yep. Right.
Yeah. And look how she's cleaned it up. Look how she's cleaned it up as a foul-mouthed young lady that she is. She really turned it around.
That's right. That's right.
Proud of her.
She used to make us all blush.
If we can just get her off the black tar heroin, I think life's going to turn around for her.
Don't sue us, Lauren.
Dirk Taylor saying, yes, love that my kids can read these books. One of my favorite things about it is that it's already ready for the kids to read too. Big thanks to Nick and Jason for that. That's coming from Dirk Taylor from the Facebook chat.
Yeah, thanks, Dirk. Make sure to buy a copy for each child.
And Balder speaks his piece. Must be the mailman. But the coming out of wow, that really threw me off my game. Coming out of Twitter, through Nick, Balder just barked Nick right off the podcast.
Is it that or is it a horrific wreck? Oh, okay.
There we go. Good. Coming out of Twitter, another one of my army buddies wants to know why blasters and not bullets.
Well, we have both.
Yeah, we have both, and there's good
We have.
arguments for both.
Mhm.
Blasters are a very cheap, ineffective. Because remember, uh, the thing, and it's like the really cool thing about what we're talking about here today is Savage Wars. Is Savage Wars is sort of it's the origin story of the Legion, but it's also the origin story of the Galactic Republic. And two forms of exploration happened during this time. One is a bunch of crazy people, sort of utopianists, got into giant, city-sized colony ships, and they took off at light speed. And what this allowed them to do was sort of micro focus on the development of their culture.
Mhm.
Hey, it's not even raining, and my windshield wipers are going. That's
You're
that, and that
gesticulating
also
too
made them
much.
crazy, and they become our enemies. But what happened on Earth after they took off and punked us and all left us with the bar tab for global disaster and war and all that kind of stuff is some very smart people figured out how to make their own personal hyperdrive, and then they put it on open source, and people like basically took refrigerators and bootstrapped themselves onto hyperdrives and explored the universe, and a lot of those people died badly, but some of those people actually founded worlds. The problem was they did not have a huge industrial base to go ahead and start arms manufacturing, munitions, all the things that go into chemically projected firepower. Whereas the blaster was developed, and we get to kind of see it was started off with the pulse rifle. We had Gauss guns. We show that in this first book. The blaster comes online, but it's not that good. Its real big benefit is it doesn't need bullets. It just needs energy. And initially, it's not that powerful, but
I'm thinking it's a bridge.
It could be a bridge. It could absolutely be. But like you said, initially it's not that powerful. But by the time you get to takeover, here he goes.
The fun part of the Galaxy.
Oh, go ahead, Nick.
Yeah, absolutely.
We got Lauren Moore, and I've seen her ask this question before, so I'm thinking she might be a fan. Are we going to see Reyna again?
Reyna, yeah, I think that there's a chance that we will. I mean, she gets. We don't want to spoil it, but she's been on our mind. Like we've talked about Reyna and what her role is. So if you haven't forgotten about her, we haven't forgotten about her either. We haven't forgotten about a lot of characters. Let's put it that way.
Jason wants to do something really cool and awesome with her, where she's sort of like maybe like something like Queen of the Space.
I seriously hope he finishes that.
Yeah, Queen.
And she's cool, teleportation, fire. Something more a little underwhelming, like she's running a convenience store on Lower Epsilon. Life hasn't worked out for her. She keeps hooking up with old Facebook romances.
But they're all dead.
Like from different baby daddies. Yeah, like just didn't work out. Like there in every space opera, there needs to be the one person who didn't carpe diem. And I think I'd like to make it rain.
Right. It's just actually, let's go with that. I think that's a good, interesting plot point, right? So.
Oh my God! Ethan Johnson says, "Well, first of all, Lauren Moore in the chat says yes in comment to the Lower Epsilon comment." Ethan Johnson, he says he loves the hyperdrive story, the hyperdrive discovery story. So I assume he's talking about Best of Us.
Yeah, well, I mean, I think that the great thing about what Karen did with The Best of Us is something that we had all talked about and worked on. And you put aside Goth Solus being, centuries old, and the reliability of his remembering those early days. You put all that aside. The reality is that there's a lot of big events that happen, and the only way we're going to hear about it is depending on who tells the story. And so what Karen wanted to go and set out to do was to say, let's tell the story in a way that it can all be true. And all that really matters is who did you hear the story from? And so I think that what she did with The Best of Us was just this amazing way to say, yeah, here's one way that this happened, but we're not going to spoil where that trilogy goes. But if you've read that book, I know some people look at it and say, well, that's not what Goth Solus said. But the reality is, well, who's left to say anything? Who knows everything that happened? And so once we get that trilogy finished, and once we have a few more works that we have planned that are going to highlight, and the Savage Wars is one of those works that highlights that early part, you're going to get a picture of the complexity of human history, because human history is complex. Like, it's easy to sit down and look at a textbook and say, oh, okay, this is the year that the Mongol invasion started. This is what turned back, the Islamic hordes. And those things are true, but everything is so interconnected that all you're doing is just kind of just throwing the slightest bit of knowledge at it. And the reality is much more complex.
Yeah, and we're wizards. We can do whatever we want.
I mean, there's that too.
No.
There's that too.
Jason is David Copperfield because of the hair, and I am the other wizard, Gandalf.
Oh man,
Gandalf, wizard.
You win. You win.
I would say this. Beam me up, Scotty. Remember when Captain Kirk said that? No, he didn't. He never ever said that. Never said beam me up, Scotty. And like, when you're dealing with a tale that's 2,000 years old, everybody is an unreliable narrator. Everybody serves their own self-interest. And I think what I like about the Galaxy's Edge universe, as opposed to a lot of other subpar franchises that are out there, is they sort of like pick one thing and go, this is it, and build the whole thing off of it. But, like, two people invented the television at the same time. Al Gore wasn't the only guy who invented the internet. Like, things have a tendency, like, you can have different inventions from different people on different formats. There was Beta Max in the ancient days when dinosaurs ruled the earth, and VCRs. And like, what we're seeing is the societal struggle between hyperdrive and faster than light cultures to see who's going to be VCR and who's going to be Betamax.
Mm-hmm. Right. Yeah, absolutely. I mean, right. Why is Tesla not the car manufacturer, but the scientist? Why is he intriguing? Because when you talk about him, you have people who are saying, but I thought Edison invented all of that, who are then saying, oh, okay, there's more to that story. But like, when I grew up in school, you didn't hear about Tesla. It was Edison all the way. That's all you heard about. All I knew when I was like 5 years old, 6 years old, was that Thomas Edison invented the way we receive electricity after Benjamin Franklin discovered it with a kite and a key ring, as we all know.
Exactly.
Josh Hayes.
History is told by the winners.
Mm-hmm.
Yes. Josh Hayes from the chat says, I invented the dab and the dubstep. I'm sure that's true.
It is true, but he forgot to patent it. So it's like, now he just has to look and feel sad. All those 8-year-olds just using his device.
Ethan Johnson, also from the Facebook chat, saying, talking about how the elites bailed and those left behind had to build it. Mm-hmm. So he's glomming onto that. Look, Ma, no hands.
No, it's funny that you're talking about dubstep, because when we were doing CrossFit, I was trying to screw around and waste time, and so because you don't have to work out as much when you make everybody laugh. And I was telling Nicole, I said, when the socialists come to shoot us, I said, they're going to give us one last request. And I asked her what hers was, and it was like, I want to do my makeup. And I was like, oh, okay. And she goes, well, what's yours? Punch him. And I said, well, I kind of want to do this. I want to have my request that I get to do this until they fire. And if I can stick the landing, I'll do this right as they fire. And I think that would make everybody's day. I mean, it's kind of a bad day to shoot me, but I think that put a bright spot on it.
Mm-hmm. They would feel bad about executing that heretic. They'd be like,
yeah,
he's a funny one. We should keep him around.
He wasn't so bad.
Yeah,
he was a giver in the
end. he just might start the counter revolution at that point.
Exactly.
Dan Kim saying in the chat, that being said, the world was wrong and 8-track is going to make a comeback.
I mean, vinyl did, so why not?
I think actually what you've just summed up, though, is awesome, because you've just summed up the entirety of these 3 books we're now releasing for the next 3 months. The Savage Wars, get them on Audible and Amazon. But basically what he's saying is that was the Savage perspective. You guys were wrong and we're right, and now we're going to club you over the head until you figure out how right we are.
Mm-hmm.
Racist bigots.
Well, Mike from Twitter saying, how did you come up with the different forms of savages for the Savage Wars books, and what kind of drugs did you use in order to do that? I'm suggesting NyQuil.
Right. Yeah. I mean, just for legal purposes, it was all over the counter, and it was legal.
It's all just a desperate bid to avoid actual work. You know, you just I think Jason and I both Jason and I are both big fans of history, and the fun thing about history, and especially like it's kind of relevant now. No, I won't get political, but it's like it's just fun to look at choices and actions and see like to take that to sort of like the worst case scenario. And like Stephen King does that in his writing. He's like, wouldn't it be great if you could like have pyrotechnic powers? Like wouldn't it be great if you could start fires with your mind? Now let's see how that goes horribly wrong by giving it to a little girl. Like that's kind of like what writing is. And I think it's what separates the amateurs from the pros, because the amateur writer always wants to build a perfect universe and protect everybody, and that becomes not a very good novel. The pro writer begins to realize that like breaking stuff and making things go horribly wrong is actually where the good storytelling comes out, because what that does is it allows your characters to really become heroes as they overcome these like horrible things that happen to them. If you wrote like a perfect novel, it's like the perfect game in baseball. It becomes the most boring game. The best game is when people get hurt, the bench clears, people fight, home runs, guy falls out of the stands, all that kind of stuff. Like the mess is what makes it fun. So with the Savages, we had to look at the concept of the Savages, and we had to say, okay, it's these utopianists who get into these like floating cities, and it's a one mindset state. So imagine like, see, here's me not being political. Imagine all the Republicans got into one ship and they didn't have any voice of dissent. That would probably go horribly wrong, just like it would go wrong for Bernie and everybody like that. Like if there's not a little bit of conversation or dissent, or there's not a loyal opposition in any society, and it's just a bunch of perverts together thinking up their weird stuff, you're going to get some pretty dark stuff. You're going to get a guy who has tentacles now, and he's cut off women's heads and put them on the tentacles, which you get in the Savage Wars, and it's really weird. So we would just kind of like take societies, and we'd say, oh, that's a nice sort of like agrarian utopian socialist society you have there. Let's find how it goes horribly wrong.
Right.
And like I think and I think we do in the first book, we find that they built this entire like farming system inside the main hab, and then I think they had a blight but the farming system went horribly wrong, and then they sort of had to get into cannibalism, and then they discovered some secret witchy powers. But basically their plan went wrong because of their belief system. And we're basically doing what Stephen King did. We just gave a little 8-year-old girl pyrokinesis and said what could go wrong, and then we said, well, we'll show you.
Yeah, right. Yeah, that's exactly it. And other times we looked at society. I think there's some savages in the books that sort of become animal hybrids. And so the backstory in our minds was, hey, what if all these people that were like the extreme dog people, right? Like they're like licking their dogs for they lick their cats for the cats, those kinds of people. Those types. Yeah, right. Exactly. Just go all out with their pets. We're like, well, what if they got together? Like, what are they going to do in their R&D? And it's probably a Dr. Dolittle thing. Like, let's see if we can learn how to communicate. And then it gets more and more perverted. Well, why shouldn't we learn how to communicate? Why shouldn't we become the same? And
why should we make love to our dogs?
Exactly. Right. It's just a far cry. It's already your baby. Just go from there. So that's been the fun with the Savages, is just trying to take a somewhat normal aspect of society, right? Maybe a little bit odd, but we're all odd. But then just saying, well, what happens if this just grows unchecked and a demagogue takes over and they start changing their mind about what's morally acceptable and what's not morally acceptable, and there's no one there to stop them. And if there is, they're just getting eliminated right from the get-go. They're turned into puppy chow. And that allows us to come with some really grotesque, kind of scary results, which you're going to see throughout the entire trilogy.
Right on. And that trilogy is now appearing on Amazon and Audible, so everybody should go out immediately and pick that up. We have a post from James M. on Facebook saying that he doesn't have a question. He just really enjoys Jason's and Nick's work.
Oh, well, the feeling is mutual. James M. Ward is a absolute legend, and he's been working on a project with us, with Nick and with you, Walt, that we're excited about. Oh, hi, Nicole.
Hi.
Nick is trying to drive up ratings there.
No, Jim always likes to see Nicole, so I always like to make sure Jim can see Nicole.
Daniel Caldwell in the chat saying Savage Wars is just a Vault Tech book. And he planted a table with a big sign that says "Change my mind."
Vault Tech in space.
In space.
Your move.
Yeah. Nice try. In space. I'd like to see Bethesda do that because we will be in court.
Apologizing.
Along with the other lawsuits that we have.
Lauren Moore in the chat saying, are you guys reading and listening to any books right now?
Yes.
I think she wanted you to vague that up a little more.
Oh, I see. All right. Yeah, I'm reading A History of England by Robert Toombs, and that's or Tomes. I don't know how the English pronounce that word.
Slow down, Jason. Slow down.
Yeah. So, yep. And then Michelle Obama's book. I've got that on repeat. I'm just trying to help those publishers earn back some of that slush fund money. And then on audiobook, I'm listening to Ray Porter's Takeover just to keep it fresh in my mind for more in season 2, and a biography about Michael Jordan. I just feel like Michael Jordan and I are so similar when it comes to basketball ability. It was interesting to see how he did it.
That's perfect.
It was interesting to see his take on the NBA.
Yeah.
I'm physically reading the one of the last books of the Black Company, second book. Highly recommend that series. It's really good. It's informing a lot of my current work right now. I'm listening to Ian Pear's Arcadia. Yeah, and Ian Pears is just like a really cool art historian who writes mysteries and things like that. So it's very pastoral. It's probably about as fun as Jason's England book. And Jason and I are probably like living embodiments of hobbits, as much as everybody thinks like we're bold action adventure Ferrari driving hot chick wielding operator types. We are probably more hobbit-esque. So I'm doing that. But this morning I actually listened to a fantastic sample that you can hear on Audible of Stephen Lang reading the opening 20 seconds that Audible gives you. And I was like, oh, I want to listen to this book because, like, it's been months since we wrote it. Like, it's been a year since we've written that book. It's been sitting at Audible. So, like, I forgot everything. I'm like, this sounds good. I'd listen to this. And I'm like, well, we wrote this. So like, but his opening monologue about the state of the galaxy in play was so good. I find it hard to believe that Jason and I actually wrote that. I'm like, did he ad-lib or monologue or something?
Like, Audible just takes our books and sends it to like real writers. Fix this.
Yeah.
We have a special guest star in the chat. Eason Keel has joined, and he says, "Hey guys,
hey." We'll try to treat you right.
We say
in season 2, but
yeah. I think the fun thing about Eason Keel is we know things about Eason Keel that not even Eason Keel knows about Eason Keel.
Right.
Now this is for my own gratification. Do we know who the hell that cat is? Because he showed up one month, and I was like, "Wait a minute."
No, I don't know. The secret has not been revealed to me. I think it actually is Eason Keel, which really helps us solidify some of the whole quantum gate stuff that happens by Irmo. Because I mean, here he is in this galaxy, but he's his own man.
And
what I enjoy, because like at the end of the day, after writing, I'll jump on the latest Call of Duty and I'll shoot people in the face, and it's always satisfying when I get shot in the face by some player called Tyrus Rex Rules with a Z,
Mhm.
and I don't know who that is.
Yeah. No, I saw someone with KTF in their gamer tag kill my son playing Battlefront. I was like, hey, all right. It's like you had it coming. You should have known better.
He didn't forget nothing.
No.
That's craziness. Billy Knapp in the Facebook chat saying, "I'm loving Savage Book 1. Mr. Lang is doing an awesome job so far." So there's a thumbs up there.
Absolutely.
Yeah,
And
and
the feedback we got was he really enjoyed it. Like
Mhm.
they did him, they treated him like a rock star to go to the studio. They limoed him in, and on the last day they had a big catered lunch, and all the execs came down to the studio to hang out with him. Like, it's really cool that they didn't think of inviting the people who actually created
we
and wrote
weren't
it and brought
invited.
it to life.
Yeah.
But like I lived vicariously through them, and I know Jason did too. But like they said, like they made a point of coming back to us and saying like he really likes this, and that's like I could care less whether some Hollywood actor likes it or not. But I thought it was cool that like a thespian like him, a real performer, and if you see him work, like he's the legit deal. That made me cool that made me happy that he dug the story and identified with the characters. That was cool. Like if it would have been some Avenger actor, I wouldn't have cared. But guy like that, legit, yep, that's cool.
Yeah, I mean maybe Josh Brolin, right?
I'm working on it.
Maybe if he agrees to be Tyrus Rex, but
In the show,
like,
right?
I feel that like it'll be cool, but then completely underwhelming when he's like, "Hey, want to score some coke?" Tyrus Rex.
No, you won't say that. We don't think. Yeah.
Eric Hansen
like,
in the chat asking, what cons are you guys going to attend this year?
If we get nominated for the Dragon Awards, which you should totally go and vote for us, we plan to be there. We plan to be on at least I plan to go to a fan run convention. I think that's being put together here in Washington State. I think Nick has to just kind of see when the dates are and how it lines up with that. But otherwise, we don't
I have
really
a lot of restraining.
A lot of restraining orders.
Yeah.
So it gets complicated. But I think our thought is, for the most part, as much as we'd like to meet people, you probably would prefer us to be in our offices writing, as opposed to spending weeks traveling and doing cons. We do kind of have a standing policy that at least one of us will attempt to be at any con where we're nominated for an award, or asked to be a special guest of honor, something like that. But as far as just doing the con circuit, we want to meet people, but the reality is we're going to help the most people by getting these books finished, and all the travel doesn't really lend itself to that.
No travel, not anytime soon.
Plus,
writing the books.
No, I saw a lady like get on an airplane with a support horse the other day, and I'm like, pass.
Oh, what?
I mean,
oh yeah, I saw that too.
Yeah,
in first class too.
Yeah, I think the goal for us is to get big enough that Bezos has to deploy the Bezos jet to get us around.
There you go. Yeah, why not?
Then I'm cool. Yeah.
Oh, my God.
Most readers can tell you, I have a policy: readers over writers.
Yeah.
So whenever a reader is in town, and I know Jason's the same way, I will get together, and many Galaxy's Edge readers I've gotten together with and had coffee and just watched the completely underwhelmed look in their eyes. And
like, this is
this is not you can see that they think it's going to be fun and cool and interesting, and then it's just like, wow.
Yeah, right. And then
disappointing.
And then we do our thing You're paying, right?
I mean, I don't mind. I can live with the contempt because they're footing the bill, and and I will order the lobster. I'll have the lobster and the lobster.
Right on. Stephen Smead in the chat. As someone who is struggling with this, any tips for someone working on an outline for his first novel?
The thing is, Stephen,
struggling
you're getting
with this interview.
Yeah, I think that's what he means. He wants to make the novelization of this interview, and he can't figure out the outline because we're all over the place. You're going to get so much variation in answers from different authors, Stephen. You've got to do what works for you. When Nick and I do an outline, we have, I think, processes that we do individually, and then we have processes that we do together. But I don't think I'm being coy here when I say we kind of know the beginning and we know the end, and then we just sort of trust that the story is going to carry us through the rest of the way. And we really don't concern ourselves too much with hammering out, okay, by chapter 4, this hook's going to happen. By chapter 5, this is going to happen. I've tried to do that, and I feel like it stifles me more than it helps me, honestly.
Yeah, I 100%. And there's times when we've had like such a huge workload that I thought, well, I'll go ahead and plot this one out and it'll make it easier. And it kind of doesn't, because it's more fun to make stuff up. And I would say to Stephen, like, if this is your first book, just give yourself permission to go ahead and have fun. And like I said, the most fun that you can have is to start ruining your main character's life, kill his dog, John Wick, blow up his starship, drown his town. Like every big budget blockbuster movie is usually a series of disasters and your guy overcoming that. And just have fun with that. Get away from the Lavender and Croquet novel about, you coming out in college to your friends and stuff like that. And just write like a dam exploding or something like that, and your guy having to run. I'm not saying he came out in college, but I'm just saying, don't make the important angsty novel. Just have fun with it.
Mm-hmm.
Right on. Dan Kim in the chat saying, how much bribery would it take to get a 75th Legion t-shirt ASAP? My next daughter is due any day now, and Legion shirts are the only proper attire for that occasion.
You're right. Hey, Kevin, if you're watching, let's do a 75th Legion shirt. That's the first Legion founded by Tyrus Rex long ago. Let's come up with a cool design for that. Walt, what do you think as a ranger?
I'm into it. Scout it first. Take it second.
Should we just blatantly rip off the 75th and just, or
I would say Death Head with a beret through it, and
they're all just looking at it like, what does this even mean, Rex?
Right?
With cross tomahawks.
Tomahawks. I'll get with some of my buddies that are still over at Regiment and see what trouble we can get into. Maybe we can get something officially endorsed. That'd be fun. We have something I've always wanted to know. How do two people write one series of books together? That's coming from Billy Knapp on the Facebook chat.
Mm-hmm.
The truth is that Jason writes everything, and then I was sort of hired as the fitness model to just make it look good. Like, this is what a writer looks like. And Jason also knows how I live my life. I do podcasts on the road. So, the death and the demise of me, we get. So no, it's a collaborative, fun effort. There are things that we both individually write, but generally everything that's written is written at some point. It goes through the other person's hand. I don't know why this question is important to you people, but I don't know. It's just like, cares. What if we hire Mexicans to write it? How would that? See, what if we told you the truth? And literally, this is coming out of an El Salvadorian sweatshop, and it's some guy named Pedro who writes it, and all he does is watch Black Hawk Down, and he's like, that would be very good, and it's not really Jason and I. We're just venture capitalists who figured this gig out. Would that ruin it for you if you knew Pedro in El Salvador was writing it? Yes, the answer is yes. You need me on that wall.
But thank God we can handle the truth. Asen Keel in the chat, which just is still blowing my mind. In chapter 6, I do something amazing. So I don't know what he's trying to get.
There's a lot of chapter 6s at this point.
Yes, clarify the book. Clarify the book.
Yeah. Let's see. I'll just see here.
Because we are talking about Savage Wars, which just released.
Absolutely.
And it's fun. It's fun. People are enjoying it. What is our ranking now?
Last I saw, we were 79 in the Audible store.
79.
We want to get into that top 50, into that top everything.
We're about to slaughter Expeditionary Force like a Sunday pig.
Okay. You're making people have question their loyalties. Mom and dad are fighting.
You should question your loyalties. It's war.
Chapter 6 of Galactic Outlaws is when Keel goes ahead and bribes the Republic and escapes. That must be what he's talking about.
Gotta be.
There you go. Hey, let's give this away, Walt. Let's give this away.
Absolutely. So if you're in the chat, real quick, let's see who's paying attention. pick a number between 1 and 20, and then in a few seconds we'll
23.
have. I don't think you're in the chat.
Yeah. Also, you're not eligible to win.
If you're pick a number between 1 and 20, fast fire them out into the chat, and whoever comes closest to the number that Nicole calls out in a few seconds, we will send that book along.
You'll have to call it out.
Between what?
1 and 20.
1 and 20.
And I want to play too. I have this used cold pressed juice bottle
Ooh.
that contains the Nick virus, and I cannot not tell you that you won't learn to write like me by drinking the dregs, but you might.
You can clone him.
Oh my God!
My starting bid will be $10,000. So I have.
Well, seeing as some of the other
$10,005.
things that celebrities have posted for sale in recent months, you don't knock it till you try it.
Yeah, that's our next thing. We're going to
Exactly.
become thoughts pretty soon. We're working on it.
All right, Nicole, call it out. Between 1 and 20.
18.
18.
18.
Let's see. Looks like, oh my God, we should have excluded him. Looks like Daniel Caldwell. He's
Dang it.
well. I'll take it. I'll take care of Daniel on the side. How about one more number?
You know what? I've got more stuff.
4.
Let's give it to Daniel. I've got more stuff. We'll play it
You
again
go.
later here.
All right, I got you. All right, so we got Daniel has got a copy of Galactic Outlaws with the fantastic new cover for that
Mhm.
hardcover. Oh my
I mean,
God!
It's not signed yet, but it will be. In fact, I'll sign it right now. Daniel, write in the chat what you want me to say.
That's brilliant.
Yeah.
He's laughing maniacally in the chat now.
I know.
Well, as
So I'd like you to say your bank account number.
and routing number. That's important too.
yes. Another question coming out of Twitter. I don't know why these guys are all hitting me up on Twitter instead of hitting me up in the fan club.
You know, Facebook is.
Yeah, I got nothing. So another question. Obviously, the first series was patterned. God, this guy can't write. Obviously, the first series was patterned after Rangers in Afghanistan. Was the Savage Wars patterned after World War II?
I think there's a little bit of that in the Savage Wars. I think there's a little bit of World War II. The Savage Wars is just
what
weird.
we tried to do. Yeah, the Savage Wars is just weird. I think what we tried to do was stay away. It's science fiction series often, when they've kind of run out of steam, start, they either go to World War I and trench warfare, or World War II and, however you want to sum that up, which the proper summation is mobile warfare. Did anyone have mobile warfare? Mobile warfare going once, mobile warfare going twice? No. Okay. So the Savage Wars is really a product of the first season, in that, like, remember when we were kind of like, I think Jason initially came up with the Savages, and he was using it. He put it in Tyrus Rex's backstory to explain why Tyrus was a badass, and it was kind of like a draw on the Clone Wars. And like when you first hear your father fought in the Clone Wars, pilot in Star Wars, does anyone want to try to beat that imitation, Jason?
No, I think you did good. I think you could. You must do what you think is right.
Your Star Wars.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Jason's got a good Obi-Wan.
Yeah, it's
so we really honestly can say that the Savage Wars still is organic whole cloth. It's too weird. There are no historical parallels. I don't think. Like, I don't want to be full of pride and hubris, but like, we just did something no one else did. We're wizards. No, it really is like it is retro engineering what we had to lay down, and then just getting super weird with it. Like savage tribes kind of. I mean, okay, it's kind of like the beginning of the Dark Ages, with Vikings sort of invading civilized Europe and then constantly resetting society. And that's what we call the Dark Ages, which is really because of 500 years of Viking invasions. There's a historical parallel there, but not World War II or World War I or anything like that. Maybe Grenada.
Yeah, there you go. That's a good one. It's Grenada. Nobody writes about Grenada. We do.
Nobody writes about Grenada.
I hope I say this guy's name right. Zach Hauser, I think it's pronounced.
That's how I always pronounce it.
Yeah, must have had the El Salvadorians watching Band of Brothers to write this one. Yeah, I got nothing for that. Lawyers. So tell Jason on Spock your stealth fighter will soon be yours. Coming out of Daniel Caldwell from the chat.
Excellent.
How another question coming out of Twitter? Stupid. How do you make a character like Tyrus Rex resonate with everyone?
I would say that Tyrus Rex is, Tyrus Rex is just a version of Conan, and just the version of sort of that very strong character type that came out in the early pulp stuff. I think where he develops a little bit more than Conan is he has this mission. He has this mission to make a better world, or a better universe or galaxy or whatever. But he's kind of that guy that's kind of figured out, or maybe not figured out, that he's going to do it all on his own. And so I think he's what all of us really aspire to be, is very driven about what we're passionate about. And he just sees his way is right, whether it's right or wrong, and it's kind of messed up at times. But I think what people like about him is his constancy in the face of insurmountable odds. He is not a character who grows or develops in any way, shape, or form. There's very minimal development with him. And I think that almost becomes touching as he kind of loses his marbles at the end, which we did up front because we're pros. And how we killed this really great character right off the bat, that everybody loves. Yeah, so we're pros like that. But I think, and just that, like, it's like John Wick, he just continues to kick ass. And as much as society tries to sort of retro engineer that out of the Cro-Magnon male species, there is just something that women and men enjoy about a character that provides justice in a lawless society.
Yeah.
Long answer, short on content.
No, I think that's huge on content, and I think that that's something that you see all the time. You look at like J.K. Rowling, right, who has become obsessed with retconning her characters by tweet, right, over and over again, like just, I'm going to make it like this because this will make this character relevant for right now. And Tyrus Rex is the exact opposite of that. He has his moral compass, and you can agree with him or you can disagree with him, but he walks that line. And I think that there is something that people appreciate about that, particularly in our society right now, where there is such pressure for everyone to conform to a specific ideology. And that's not calling out any group. Like, we see it in subcultures all the time, right? Like, you've got to believe this, and this. And if you don't, then you're a problem. That's not unique to anybody, but I think people are tired of it. And Tyrus Rex is exactly the kind of guy that's going to tell you exactly what to do with your subculture and just be himself.
So here's one little thing too, and Jason's absolutely right about that, but it's interesting, but I don't know that many people know, but Tyrus Rex has this one sort of like thing, and I don't even think it's ever even been touched in a book, but it's just something that sort of guides his character, and it's don't do anything that you'll ever be ashamed of.
Mm-hmm.
And that's like I think maybe his dad tells him that in the third book, I forget, but that's kind of how, like, and people could look at Rex's actions and say, like, you're a genocidal maniac and you've nuked planets and things like that, but there's never any guilt feelings in Rex. He never has this sort of like easy writer trope of like, Jason summed it up perfectly the other day when he was talking about how Hollywood writes war movies. How did you say that?
Oh, I don't know. I talk about Hollywood so much, I can't remember it anymore.
But it was like, it was like, and I'm going to butcher it, but correct me if I'm wrong, but it was like, you went to war and now you learned your lesson about how bad war is.
Exactly. Right.
Yeah. Yeah. And I'd never really articulated it, but when Jason said that, I was like, yep, you're absolutely right. That's not Rex.
Right.
Rex doesn't feel bad. He's measured and he's slow, and it's even pointed out by other people. He's not, like, obviously he's the fastest with the blaster and his massive hand cannon, but like mentally he's plodding and slow and he thinks things through. Like whereas as Keel is pretty witty and pretty quick, you're never going to get any wit out of Tyrus Rex.
Mhm.
There are no jokes. There's nothing. He's the ultimate sort of straight man.
Right.
But everything he thinks about, there's no guilt in it. He
Mhm.
does nothing that he will ever feel ashamed of. And that's almost a superhuman quality that we all strive for, because all of us do stuff that we get
Mhm.
ashamed of. But I think it's an interesting way that he lives his life, and I think it's the way that we all try to live our lives. We blow it and stuff like that. But like it's good, it's a good lesson to impart to kids. Try not to do anything you're ever gonna have to be ashamed of, because you end up, that's what you're gonna live with your whole life.
Mhm.
And Rex is just this guy who just decided, at a very young age, he was never going to be ashamed of the stuff that he did, meaning he measures twice and he cuts once.
Right. Yep. Yeah. I like that analogy about the jokes, because Tyrus Rex is absolutely the type of guy who hours after the incident will think finally of the funny thing to say and just, just laugh to himself.
It's
and
just,
then go to bed.
it's just it's just him and the Nubarian gunnery bot. And he's like,
Mhm.
and the bot's just staring at his weapons and doesn't care.
Right. Yeah, exactly. Doesn't tell anybody. He just laughs to himself and moves on with his life.
In book 3 of the Savage Wars, there's a great kind of a flashback where he thinks about what his father taught him about justice. I think that really sums up that character. I'm not going to spoil it, but I mean,
Right.
it's just fantastic, fantastic scene. My friend Jim, coming from Facebook, will we see the effects of war on how Prisma develops in season 2?
Yeah, I mean, Prisma is going to show up in season 2. We don't want to give too much more away to that, but I think we've already seen the effects of war on Prisma. We're going to see more of it, and her character arc's interesting. Let's just put it that way.
Dan Kim,
I mean,
go ahead.
It's not lower epsilon interesting.
Mhm.
But it's interesting.
Like
Right,
Raina.
right. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Dan Kim, coming out of Facebook, seems like most authors now try to write complex characters by taking a good character and throwing mud on them. T-Rex being a galactic absolute is very refreshing.
Mhm. Yeah, we think so too, and I don't think that that's necessarily what makes people complex, right? Like throwing mud on someone. I think the complexity comes with your overcoming challenges and giving into your faults. And Rex is unique, but I think even guys like Keel, that complexity is just there because we've made them be true to who they are as a core and have to deal with their failings when they happen, but not go out of our way to make them kind of mincing, angst-filled, that sort of thing.
Nate, coming out of Facebook, will we see the Coobs become a galactic superpower?
There might be. What do you think after Takeover? Because I feel like we're getting good feedback on this other view of the Coobs, which we wrote intentionally, right? Like there is an aspect to war where time passes and you're able to see your opponents in a way that you just can't afford to see them while you're in the middle of fighting, right? And that was sort of what we wanted to achieve on Kublar to an extent. I don't know. I like the Coobs. I've always been fond of the Coobs.
They're Bronze Age savages. They have no place in the galactic community.
Oh my goodness. Bill from Facebook, will we see more of the characters from Takeover moving through season 2?
Yeah. We introduced those characters for a reason, and so the reality is that what you've got in Savage Wars is going to influence what happens in Takeover in season 2 from this point on. If you've, since this isn't the Insiders group, we don't deal in spoilers. But if you've read the end of Takeover and you know how that book ends, you have a good understanding of why what you're about to read in the Savage Wars is crucial. So as long as all of our narrators are available when we need them to be, we're going from Takeover to all 3 Savage Wars books, and then hopefully we'll have the follow-up to Takeover, which I have tentatively titled Things Fall Apart, but Nick and I still have to decide exactly what's going to go there. But yeah, those characters, the ones who died, sorry, those characters are going to be playing a role, and they're going to be interacting with the people who stayed on through season 1 as well.
Right on. So before we call it a podcast, so we can get Nick and Nicole out of the car.
No, this is where we live. We're in California. We live in our car. Nicole's taking a shower right now. Want to see?
Yeah, there goes that rating on Facebook. Did you want to do? You said you wanted to do another giveaway of another book?
Yeah. Let's see here. Boy, what should we do? Well, I've got a lot of stuff. I've got this. I've got a nice little copy of Order of the Centurion signed by Nick and me and Mark Boyette. We've got that. We've got our. These are going to go in the store here in time for Super Tuesday. But we've got our Article 19 bumper stickers. Those are ready to go, so that you can support the right candidate. The Legion's always the right candidate. We've got the same hat I'm wearing right here. This KTF hat with the. We call it 80s retro to avoid lawsuits. The 80s retro design. So we've got some stuff if we want to give some stuff away, Walt. So
excellent. So if you're in the chat right now and you've hung this far, let's see. How about we name the first character from the series that comes to mind, and if our esteemed creators name the same character, that's the person who will get this mega Article 19 bundle.
Okay, we're gonna put it all together. So we both have to think of a character after they've named some characters.
Let's see.
A non-main character.
That could be the trick, right? Is it a main character? Is it a non-main character?
All right, let's go with a non-main character, but somebody memorable enough that people frequently mention them. And Daniel Caldwell says in the chat, and it can't be Daniel Caldwell.
Right, yeah, that's true. He is not in the books yet.
So
how do we pull this off? Do we just say the name now, or do they start saying names and then we don't hear them? We do this, which is great radio.
Yep, I'm already getting responses. We're getting.
I can't see the chat, so maybe
you see
the chat, Jason.
No, I'm not looking at the chat.
So
I want this to be fair. I'm not looking. I want this to be fair. The problem with this is, Nick, we can't say masters because we're gonna have to give this thing to 60 people at that point. Right? So
right now got.
But I would say that Masters is a main character.
At this point, a lot of those secondary characters have become main characters, haven't they?
Oh wow! Somebody just threw a real, almost like this would be an F-bomb in the Galaxy's Edge universe. But there's seems to be one fan favorite of a secondary character that is coming up again and again. We got at least 7 mentions of this one character.
The Nubarian Gunnery Bot.
No. He is a Legionnaire, and he did fall at one point, and has a memorable name. So let's we might have to break this bundle up.
I know
Admiral Devers.
I know who it is.
Actually,
Hannibal.
No, it wasn't Hannibal. And we actually have Andy Toller, who had Admiral Devers. So Andy, if you send me a Facebook message, I will link you together with the peoples, and we will get that out to you. Actually, the one that everybody was saying was 20s.
Oh yeah, 20s. 20s is a good guy. 20s gets all the love. But what about Cags? That's what I want to know. What about Cags?
Ethan Johnson had said Cags.
Okay, good, Ethan. Thank you.
Requiem for Cags.
That's right.
Right.
Cags is the next big thing in this series. I just wanted to make that clear. He's coming back from the dead. He's got
Season 2 is all
armor.
about Cags.
Cags finds Goth Solus's armor, and he just goes wild.
Oh no!
Him and he baby mama's Reyna on lower echelon.
Oh my goodness!
She becomes. Oh, I want to say that.
Yeah. Really.
Gentlemen, I wanted to thank you very much for your time and coming out and celebrating 2,000 members on the Galaxy's Edge fan club.
Yeah.
What are we gonna do when it's 3,000? You guys wanna come down here to Rhode Island? We'll get you some good lobster and go to a bunch of gun ranges.
Geographically coming down, I don't know if that works, right?
Coming over.
Coming over.
Yeah.
Second lieutenant with your directions.
So we'll have to.
If you guys come to SoCal, we could go to Disneyland and no gun ranges.
Mm.
I don't know if I'm good. That might be a little scary for me. What was that old line from Robin Williams? Mickey is a 6-foot giant rat.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
there's that.
But yeah, if we hit 3,000 members, could we get you on again for another show?
Yeah, we'll definitely do that, and I think it would be
Yes.
fun to do a live in person show. And I'll tell you what, let's just up the ante. If we get ourselves to 100,000 members, then we'll film it in front of a live studio audience, and we'll tell everybody how they can come and get free tickets and sit in on that
Ooh.
audience. We'll just do that.
100,000.
100,000.
You heard him, J.R. Handley. Get on the stick.
How about this? How about this? This is a fun one, and this is doable. I'll throw this one out. 10,000 members,
Mhm.
and we do range day in Vegas at that fancy place where you can shoot a 249,
Mhm. That's
Barrett,
a fun place.
and all that kind of stuff. And Galaxy's Edge pays for all the ammo.
Oh my God.
You just got to get yourself
like-
there.
Yeah, and it's just like we will rent the range for the entire day. We will be there from morning until they kick us out,
Mhm.
and then we'll go eat steaks the size of cows. We're not paying for the steaks, but we will
Right?
pay
Yeah.
for
I
all
mean,
those.
there's a point, but yeah.
Now, when you say you guys are
But
paying for the
10,000
ammo, does that mean like real ammo, or are you just talking 22?
Well, these places
No.
that I went there a couple last year with Jeff Cheney and Jonathan Yanez, and Nick is gone too. Unfortunately, I didn't shoot with Nick, but no, we're talking like you get to relive your glory days, Walt. Like, or you get to pretend that you're an Afghan insurgent if you want to as well, and fire off those AK-47s.
Well, I do have those pictures.
Mm-hmm. There you go.
You know, we'll make it a whole weekend in Vegas, and the highlight will be like Galaxy's Edge range day, and we will foot the whole bill, and everybody will have a lot of fun, and then like we'll go to a show, be fun. We'll see like something on ice.
Yeah. Oh, that's the best part right there. Maybe we can see David Copperfield.
Oh, you could always go to that. What is it? That place in the basement of God, I can't remember which place it is, where you can watch live jousting.
Oh, hey, yeah.
All that stuff. All the like we'll really bottom out and ruin ourselves. We'll try to find all the darkest experiences. Galaxy's Edge style.
Right.
But 10,000, make it happen and get yourself to Vegas and get your ass to Mars, and we'll have a good time.
Yeah, that
That's
sounds great.
awesome.
Let's do that.
Thank you guys so much for coming out and being very generous with your time, and for getting us to 2,000 members on the fan club by writing these amazing stories and being very accessible to everybody. It's really awesome, and we appreciate it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and thanks you guys for your support. If you haven't gotten Savage Wars, go ahead and get it. Every time we have a launch like this and it does well, it really does. It sounds silly, but it gets us that much closer to getting the TV show, getting all those things done. Like we've got some big things coming up with that, and a lot of it is on the strength of how well Galaxy's Edge season 1 did. So it was just the reality is if Savage Wars hits the way we think it hits, the way it looks like it's already hitting by the rankings, if that keeps up, we're really being turned into a community that the big studios are having trouble ignoring. In fact, they're not ignoring. Let's just put it that way. They're not ignoring us. They're saying, "Tell us more." And so we're close. Just keep us pushed when we do these releases. We're doing everything we can to get you ebooks out as quickly as possible. For those of you who absolutely adore R.C. Bray, we like him too, but it ain't happening. He had his chance. He didn't want to do it. The guys who are doing it are kicking ass, and we love it. So stick with us, keep supporting us, get those books, leave reviews for us, and it's moving the needle. And I can't tell you how appreciative we are of your support in this community. It means everything.
And I'm going to say one last thing, because our brand ambassador in the vocal community is Ray Porter.
Mhm.
And so you all want to really get behind Release the Snyder Cut, because that's
Mhm.
like a really big thing for Ray.
Yeah.
And, yeah, so make sure to shout that out. But I really just, from both Jason and I, like, this is a dream come true. And like I said, like, getting to hear your stories has really been the heart and the soul and the marrow of writing Galaxy's Edge. And so please just keep talking to us, and please keep being our friends and hanging out with us. It really, like, every time you guys reach out, you all say, like, oh, I'm sorry to bother you. It's not a bother. Like, day made. Every time we get to talk to you guys, we do, we got to work and everything like that, but we will always, I think the both of us will always stop and engage with Galaxy's Edge readers and veterans and people who love veterans. And that's what all of this is about. And honestly, we do have to turn around the VA system, and veterans need to be taken better care of.
Yeah.
And so this is an election year, and you should get involved, either side, and you should say whatever is good for veterans. That's what we need to do, because no one deserves better than veterans. And anybody who thinks that they're going to get up and run government and can't even take care of the VA and that, like, they have no business talking about climate change or anything else until we solve this problem. We get that problem done, let's talk about other stuff. But there's no sense going forward. But veterans issues, ginormous. And so if you can help us there, that is our passion.
Mhm.
Fantastic. Thank you again, gentlemen. Really appreciate it. And we'll catch you next time in the Galaxy's Edge podcast.